Hi guys, welcome back. In the last session, we understood what is an application and what is application tech stack and what is application architecture, life without Docker in the project and life with Docker, what is the Docker and what is the Docker architecture. So as we have seen, application is nothing but collection of programs. One software project will contain several programs. And that software project is divided into three layers mainly. First one is front end, second one is back end, and the third one is database. Front end contains user interface. Whatever you see on the website, that is called as user interface. To develop that front end part of the application, there are several technologies available in the market like Angular, React, and Vue.js. Project will use any one of that technology, either Angular, React, or Vue, but not all the three. Right. Now, next one, the user interface. End users will access that user interface. End users will perform some operations. When user performs some operation on the front end will send a request to back end of the application. In the application backend, business logic will be available. That business logic will be developed by using Java or .NET or Python or Node.js or PHP. These are called as backend technologies. As part of that business logic execution, application will communicate with the database. So for every application, database will be available, which is used to store the data permanently. So there are several databases available in the market like Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and MongoDB. So a project will use one front-end technology, one back-end technology, and one database for development. So now, once the project development is completed, we cannot give the project to the client directly. We need to test that project to check all the functionalities are working as expected or not. In order to do that, in the real time, company will maintain several environments. So those are dev environment will be available, sit environment will be available, and UAT environment will be available. So you see, this is a dev environment, this is a sit environment, this is UAT environment, and prod environment. Like this, multiple environments will be available. What is a environment? Environment nothing but a platform which is used to run our application. So all the developers code will be deployed to dev environment to run the code so that developers can test their code is working as expected or not. So in order to run our application, only code is not sufficient. Along with the code, some softwares we have to install. For front end, Angular software should be installed. For back end, Java should be installed. For a database, Oracle should be installed. To run the application, Tomcat server should be installed. Once all these softwares are installed, then only we can run our project. So like this, operational team should prepare the environment and deploy our application. So when we are installing the softwares, every software version we have to specify. Which version of the Angular, which version of the Java, which version of the database, which version of the Tomcat. Now, so Raja is a DevOps engineer. He configured the dev environment and deployed the application. Sunil configured the UAT environment. Naveen configured the SIT environment. Ashok configured the production environment. So if all the operations team is using the same versions of the software, then no problem. Suppose Raja installed Angular 14 version, Naveen installed Angular 13 version. The application which is working in the dev environment is not working in the sit environment because of the dependencies problem. So if you want to run your application in multiple machines, we need to make sure same versions of the softwares we are running in all the machines. Then only our application will execute. So that is the difficult problem, because by mistake, if you install the wrong version of the software, our application execution will fail. So it is very difficult to install all the softwares in all the machines in which we want to run the application. To simplify this process, we are going for Docker. So what is the Docker? Docker is a containerization platform. So the whole idea of the Docker is to easily develop applications, ship them into containers, which can be deployed anywhere. So whatever the application we are developing, we should be able to deploy that application in any machine without bothering about the dependencies. So that's why we are going for Docker. Docker is called containerization platform. We'll talk about what is a containerization. So here, how the Docker is going to solve our problems. When we want to run our application in the multiple platforms or in the multiple machines, our application will have the code. Development team will write the code. That is code, the code will be available. So to execute that code, we need some dependencies. So it might be Windows operating system or Linux. I need a Linux machine. In that Linux, I need Angular and I need Java, I need Tomcat and I need Oracle. Like that, what are the dependencies we need to run our application? Those dependencies we are going to configure in a file. That file is input for the Docker. The name of the file is a Docker file. What is this Docker file? Docker file contains a set of instructions to Dockerize our application. Docker file contains a set of instructions to build the Docker image. So application code will be available and application dependencies will be available in the Docker file. By using this application code and application dependencies, we will build Docker image. What is a Docker image? Docker image is a package which contains code plus dependencies. Dependencies is nothing but the softwares that we need to run that code. So once the Docker image is created, we can store the Docker image into Docker Hub. What is a Docker Hub? Docker Hub is a Docker registry where we can store the Docker images for future purpose. Right? So your images can be public images or private images. Public images means anybody can download your image and they can run your image. Private images means only we can download and we can run our images. Right? So Docker images will be stored into Docker Hub. Docker Hub is a Docker registry. So once the Docker image is created, we can just pull the Docker image and run the Docker image. Whenever you run the Docker image, Docker will create a Docker container. In the Docker container, it will prepare the platform to run our application. Now, we no need to bother about which version of Java is available in the dev environment, which version of Java available in the sit environment, which version of the Java available in the UAT prod. We no need to bother because we already told to the Docker in the Docker file, I want Java 11 version. So in all these machines, Docker will install the Java 11 and Docker will run our application. So by using Docker, we can simplify application deployment process into multiple machines. We no need to bother about the dependencies that we have to install in each and every machine because we are giving the instructions to the Docker to take care of the dependencies. So this is called Docker architecture. Now here guys, here we understood what is the Docker and why we need to go for Docker. So by using Docker, we can simplify our application deployment process, our application execution process. Got my point? So what is the Docker file? Docker file contains instructions to build a Docker image. Then what is the Docker image? It is a package which contains code plus dependencies. Then what is the Docker registry? It is a repository to store the Docker images. What is Docker container? Docker container is a runtime process which runs our application. So once the Docker image is created, then we can pull that image and we can run that image in any machine. Once the Docker image is created, then we can pull that image and we can run that image in any machine. Now guys, before Docker came into picture, earlier people used to work with a concept called virtualization. So earlier people used to work with a concept called virtualization. There are some problems in the virtualization. Now, because of that reason, now we are going for a concept called containerization. Earlier, people used virtualization concept to run the application. To overcome the problems of the virtualization, now people are going for containerization. Sir, what is the meaning of a virtualization? Now I have one computer. In this computer, we will install one operating system. So assume that I have Windows operating system in this computer. The Windows operating system which I have in this computer is called as host operating system. Windows operating system which I am having in my laptop, that is called as Windows operating system. that Windows operating system I'm calling as a host operating system. That means that is the main operating system that I have in my computer. In my computer, in order to run the application, then what we used to do is, in the Windows machine only, we are going to install other operating system that is called guest operating system. Here, I'm going to install 2 guest operating systems in this computer. So I want to run my application on the Linux machine, right? So here I have a Windows machine. Windows operating system is my main operating system in the computer. In this Windows machine, I have installed 2 other operating systems. Those operating systems are called as guest operating systems. Those operating systems are called as guest operating system. In this guest operating system, I want to run my application. For running our application libraries, and the required softwares I use it to install, and I use it to run the application. So what are the softwares that are required to run the application? I'm going to install those softwares on the guest operating system. In that guest operating system, I use it to deploy my application. So now in the second guest operating system also, what are the libraries are required? What are the softwares that are required? I use it to install. On top of those softwares, we use it to deploy our application. In the industry, earlier, people used to follow this concept to run our applications. So they will take a machine. In that machine, they will install one operating system. The main operating system is called as host operating system. On top of the host operating system, people use it to install guest operating systems. On the guest operating system, they will install the required softwares. Why? Because my first application requires Java 7 version or Java 8 version. My first application requires Java 8 version. My second application requires Java 11 version. So here, to run the first app 1, this is first application and this is second application. To run the first application, Java 8 is required. To run the second application, Java 11 is required. So here, on the first, we are going to take a machine with the host OS. On top of the host OS, we use it to install the guest OS. In the first guest OS, I installed Java 8. By using this Java 8, I am running my first application. I have another guest operating system. In the another guest operating system, I installed Java 11 version. In this, using Java 11 version, I'm running my application too. So this concept is called as virtualization concept. Before Docker comes into picture, people use it to deploy the applications like this by using virtualization concept. So installing one operating system in the another operating system. Installing guest OS in host OS is called as virtualization. So performance will be slow. Performance will be slow. Why? Because in one computer, we are installing the multiple operating system. To start the system, it will take a lot of time. The burden will be increased on the server. So to overcome the problems available in the virtualization, people are going for containerization. So what is the meaning of containerization? So here, I'm going to take a computer. In this computer, we are going to take one operating system. For example, host operating system. That can be Windows or that can be Linux. It can be anything. Here also, host OS can be anything. Now here, I'm taking one host operating system. Once I take the host operating system, in this host operating system, I'm going to install Docker software. That is called Docker Engine. You no need to install multiple operating systems to run multiple applications on the same machine. So earlier, when we want to run multiple applications on the same machine, multiple guest operating systems we use it to install. When you install multiple guest operating systems, the performance of the computer will become very slow. So to overcome the problems of the virtualization, people are going for containerization. So what is the meaning of containerization? Running our application in the containers. So how to run our application in the containers? So here, you no need to install multiple operating systems to run the multiple applications. First, we will take a computer. In that computer, one operating system will be available. That operating system is called as host operating system. In that host operating system, we are going to install the Docker software that is called Docker engine. That is called Docker engine. So once we install the Docker engine, we can run our application as multiple containers. This is a container 1. This is a container 2. This is a container 3. Like this, you can run your applications in the containers. C1, that is a container 1. C2, container 2. C3, container 3. So in the C1, I am running my application 1. In the C2, I can run my application 2. In the C3, I can run my application 3. So every application will be executed as a separate container. So what will be there in the container? In this container, Docker will take care of operating system which is required. It will take care of the softwares which are required, and it will run our application. Earlier, operations team should create multiple operating systems in the one operating system as a guest OSs. In the guest OS, they need to set up the softwares and they need to run the application. So if we are setting up the operating system, if we are installing the softwares required to run the application, then that concept is called virtualization. So there are a lot of problems involved in the virtualization process. So to overcome the problems involved in the virtualization, now people are going for containerization. So when we go for containerization, we no need to install multiple guest operating systems. We no need to install multiple guest operating system. On the host operating system, we will install the Docker engine. Once the Docker engine is available, you can run the Docker image. When you run the Docker image, Docker container will create. If I run 3 Docker images, then 3 containers will create. In every container, one application will execute. For every application, one container will be created. So what is the advantage of going with these containers? Container will take care of all the required softwares to run the application. So here in the virtualization, person should install the operating system, person should install the softwares, person should run the application. But when you go for containerization, the container will take care of all the softwares that are required for our application. Like this, you can run multiple containers in one machine by using Docker engine. Are you guys getting my point? So running the application as a container. In the containers, running application in containers. Running application container. We can run multiple containers in one machine. We can run multiple containers in one machine. So here, performance will be speed. Performance will be fast. Because if you delete the container, then that container will be deleted. But in the virtualization, operating systems are installed that will slow down the performance of the application. So people used to follow virtualization concept earlier, and currently people are going to follow containerization concept. Earlier, people follow virtualization. Today, people are following containerization. Are you guys getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? What is virtualization and what is containerization? Are you clear with the virtualization and containerization concept, guys? Perfect. Now see here, what is virtualization? Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system is called as virtualization. As I have shown you, here one host OS will be available. On top of the one host OS, multiple guest OSs will be installed. That concept is called as virtualization. Installing multiple guest operating systems in one host operating system is called as virtualization. In order to install multiple guest operating systems on the host operating system, in our computer, hypervisor software will be available. So in the Windows, if you search for hypervisor, software will be available. So what is that hypervisor? Hypervisor is a software which is used to run the virtual machines. So in the Windows operating system, hypervisor will be available. Hypervisor is a type of computer software which is used to create and run the virtual machines. Okay, guys. In one OS, we can run the multiple other OSs by using this hypervisor software. So here, Once we install the guest operating system, we need to install all the required softwares in the guest operating system. We need to install all the required softwares in the guest OS to run our application. It is old technique to run the applications. System performance will become slow in this process because when I start my machine, first it has to start the host OS. Once the host OS started, it has to start the guest operating systems also. System performance will become slow when we go for virtualization concept. To overcome the problems of the virtualization, we are going for containerization concept. Docker is a containerization software. So what is the meaning of containerization? It is used to package all the softwares and application code in one container for execution. In order to run our code, what are the softwares are required? We are going to package all the softwares and application code in one container for the execution. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? It is used to package all the softwares and application code in one container for the execution. Container will take care of everything which is required to run our application. In the virtualization, we need to install all the softwares which are required. But when it comes to the containerization, it will take care of all the softwares because already we packaged our code and dependencies as a Docker image. So just we need to pull the image and we need to run the image. So when we run the image, it will take care of all the softwares to run our application. So that is the advantage of going with the containers concept. Docker is a containerization software. Docker is a containerization software. Are you guys clear with my point? Now, containerization is used to resolve the problems of the virtualization. So container will take care of everything which is required to run our application, right? We can run the containers in multiple machines easily. So suppose I have a Docker image, that a Docker image I can take and I can run in any machine. When I run the Docker image, Docker container will be created. In that container, all the code plus the dependencies will be available. So in one machine, we can run multiple containers, and in multiple machines, you can run the containers also very easily because it will take care of the dependencies which are required, right? We can run the containers in multiple machines easily. Docker is a containerization software. Using Docker, we will create a container for our application. Container nothing but a big box. In that box, our application is going to execute. As I shown you here, so there are two symbols available. This is called container. It is a big box. In that box, code plus dependencies will be available. And it is going to execute our application in the container. This is the official logo of the Docker. Docker logo is a ship symbol. Ship symbol is available. In that ship, multiple containers are available. Why they have given this ship symbol? Because these containers we can ship to any machine, we can run in any machine. Easily they are transferable. Easily containers are transferable. Easily containers are transferable. That's why we are going for this Docker. Docker is a containerization platform. The whole idea of Docker is to easily develop applications, ship them into containers, which can then be deployed anywhere. This is the Docker architecture. As I told you, we are going to write a Docker file. The Docker file contains the instructions to build the Docker image. So we are going to build the Docker image by using Docker file. Code plus Docker file will be packaged into Docker image. That Docker image we can push to Docker Hub. So once that image is available, we can pull that image and we can run that image. You can run the Docker image in the Mac virtual machine, in the Windows machine, and in the Linux machine also. In any machine, you can run the Docker image, then Docker container will be created. In that container, our application is going to execute. In that container, our application is going to execute. So in the interview, they will ask, what is the Docker? Docker is a containerization software. By using Docker, we can create the containers. What is a container? Container contains application plus dependencies for the execution. So before containerization, which concept people used in the market? Before containerization, people used a concept called virtualization. What is virtualization? In one operating system, we use it to install other operating systems. In those operating systems, we use it to install the required softwares. But in the containerization, that is not required. Docker will take care of everything. So here, operations team job will become easy to run the application in multiple machines without bothering about the required softwares. Are you guys clear? Right. What is the conclusion? Docker is a containerization software. Docker will take care of application and application dependencies for the execution. So deployments into multiple environments, application deployments into multiple environments will become easy if we use Docker containers concept. If I am not using Docker containers, then virtualization is very difficult task. Virtualization is very difficult task. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? So what is virtualization and what is containerization? Yes, perfect. Now we understood what is the Docker and what is the Docker, what is application tech stack. Tech stack nothing but the technologies that we are using to develop our application architecture, life without Docker, life with Docker, what is the Docker and Docker architecture. Here I can say what is virtualization, and what is containerization. So currently in the market, virtualization is outdated technique. People are going for containerization, Docker architecture. Okay guys, so actually we need to keep this. What is virtualization, what is containerization, and a Docker architecture. All of you clear with these points? All of you clear with these points? Shall I move on to the next concept? Now, so I want to install Docker software. So install Docker in Amazon Linux, right? So here I'm going to use one Linux machine. In that Linux machine, I want to install my Docker software. So for that, first we need to create a Linux machine. In that Linux machine, we need to execute these commands in order to run our Docker. Perfect. So here I will log in into my AWS account, guys. I will log in into my AWS account. In that AWS account, I will create the virtual machine. So the people who are attending only for Dockers and Kubernetes, you should create the account in the AWS and you should log in into your AWS account and you need to create a virtual machine in the AWS. Yeah, fine guys. I logged in into my AWS account. In the AWS, there is a service called EC2 service. By using this EC2 service, we can create one virtual machine. Okay guys, now let me go for launch instance concept. I'm using launch instance. Here I'm giving a name for my instance. I'm giving it as Docker VM. This is a virtual machine in the AWS I'm creating to install my Docker software. Docker VM I'm creating. For this, I'm using an image called Amazon Linux. Amazon Linux I'm using, it is a Linux flavor, Amazon Linux. Then T2 Micro, it is a free tier eligible. So we can use this machine for free of cost. Key pair. So if you don't have a key pair, select the key pair. If you already have a key pair, then use that key pair. Now see here. Here I'm having a key pair with the name called Ashok IT, which I have created. If you don't have the key pair, you can click on it. It will download one PEM file. So here I'm giving Ashok IT as a key pair. The network settings, the default security group. So here security group will be created by default. Then nothing else. Just observe, I'm using Docker VM as the name and I'm using Amazon Linux. Then I'm using T2 Micro. Key pair I have selected, which I already have it. If you don't have, you can create and select it. When you create the new key pair, it will download that key pair. Okay, fine. Security group, I'm not changing anything. Then click on launch instance. So with this, my Linux machine is created in the AWS cloud. So just click on this instance ID. Click on this instance ID. So that instance will be started. Once the instance is started, it will generate a public IP for that instance. Using that public IP, we can connect it to that instance. Select the Docker VM. So instance state is running. Now my machine is started, guys. My machine is started. Then let me take the public IP of this machine. So let us take the public IP. I'm using one software called Mobile Extrom. In the document, I have clearly explained, guys, how to work with all these things. So let me take Mobile Extrom, session, SSH, remote host. Give the public IP of that machine and username. The default username is EC2 user. We can check the username of the machine. If you select this machine and click on connect, it will display the public IP and it will display the username. So the username is EC2-user and the public IP is this. So I have taken the public IP of the machine and I have taken username of the machine. And we need to select the key pair which I have selected. So use the private key, select this option and select the key pair. I selected Ashok IT PEM file. When you create the new key pair, it will download that PEM file and select that PEM file. All right. So here total 3 things I'm doing, guys. I'm selecting the remote host as a public IP. I'm giving the username and I'm selecting the private key under SSH settings. So by using this, I will connect to that Linux machine which is created in the AWS cloud. Clear? Click on OK. Click on OK. So when we click on OK, we will connect to that Linux machine. With this, my Linux machine is ready in the AWS cloud. This is called virtual machine. This is called virtual machine. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? I want to practice Docker. So to practice the Docker, I am taking one Linux machine. So that Linux machine I'm creating in the AWS cloud. In the AWS, EC2 service is available, which will provide the facility to create the machines. So the machine which we are creating is called as instance. The machine which we are creating is called as instance. Are you guys able to follow me? So here I have created my machine. So that machine is Docker machine. That machine is the Docker machine. So the Docker machine is created and the Docker machine is running. The Docker machine is created and the Docker machine is running. So if you click on connect, public IP, you can see EC2 user. So with this, my Linux machine is ready. In this Linux machine, I want to install Docker. To install the Docker, here I have given the commands, right? So first one, sudo yum update -y. It is used to update existing packages in the Linux, right? No packages marked for the update. Completed. Now sudo yum install Docker, right? Sudo yum install Docker. It is going to download Docker in our Linux. I want to install the Docker in the Linux. It is downloading. In the Linux, we will use package managers to install the softwares. As I'm using Amazon Linux, the package manager is yum. Yum install Docker. Once the Docker is installed, let me start the Docker. Sudo service Docker start. Sudo service Docker start. So with this, my Docker software is started. I logged in into this machine as a EC2 user. So to run the Docker, I need to add this EC2 user to the Docker group. Add EC2 user to Docker group by executing the below command. Sudo user mode -add user group. Docker is the group name. EC2 user is the username. So this is the command which is used to add the user to the group. I'm adding that user to the group. Once we add that user to the group, let me check the Docker info. When I check the Docker info, it is giving permission denied. Let me restart, exit. Then do Shift R. I reconnected to this machine. So after adding the Docker user, after adding the EC2 user to the Docker group, you just execute this exit command. So that the session will be closed. And again, if you press the R, that session will be restarted. See here, I'm pressing exit. When I press exit, the session is stopped. Press R to restart the session. When I press R key in the keyboard, my session is restarted. Once the session is restarted, we can execute a command called docker info. When I execute the docker info, it is giving me the Docker information. That means the Docker software is installed in our machine the Docker software is running in our machine. You can check like this Docker-version. So Docker-version. Docker-version. So here it is giving Docker help command, the sufficient commands to get the information about the Docker. These all are the Docker commands that we are going to see. Docker-v. So this is the version of the Docker. So Docker version 20.10.7 build number is available. So Docker is installed. If you want to see Docker is running or not, so which version of the Docker is installed, you can verify by using Docker-v command. So it is giving the Docker version. So if you want to check the status of the Docker, you can go for Docker info. When you go for Docker info, it is giving that information. That means the Docker server is running in our machine. So here 0 containers are available, containers are 0, 0 containers running, 0 containers paused, 0 containers stopped, 0 images are available. This is the version of the Docker server. So this is the server version. Which version of the Docker we have installed? Are you guys clear how to install the Docker in the Linux machine? Are you guys clear with the? Are you guys clear with the? Are you guys clear with the? This point? Are you guys clear with this point? Here, whenever we install the Docker, by default, the Docker group will be created. We no need to create the Docker group. Whenever I execute this command, by default, Docker group will be created. I want to operate the Docker software as a EC2 user. So that's why this EC2 user I'm adding to the Docker group. Okay, guys, we no need to create the Docker group manually. That will be created by default when you install the Docker software. So as EC2 user, I am using this machine. This EC2 user should have the permission to work with the Docker. That's why that EC2 user I have added to the Docker group. Are you guys clear with my point? Sudo yum update, it is used to update the existing packages. Sudo yum install docker-y, it is used to install the Docker software in the Linux machine. So this Linux is Amazon Linux, guys. Suppose if you take Ubuntu Linux, these commands will not work. These commands I'm giving for Amazon Linux. These commands I'm giving for Amazon Linux. If you go for Ubuntu machine, these commands will not work. So there are multiple flavors of the Linux machines. So if you see, when I am launching an instance, I have selected Amazon Linux, right? So here, application image, right? Amazon image we are using as Amazon Linux. So if you use this Amazon Linux, then only these commands will work. If you go for Ubuntu, these commands will not work. So how to install the Docker in the Ubuntu, I will discuss in the upcoming classes. For time being, all of you choose Amazon Linux to install the Docker. So in the Amazon Linux, we are going to use these commands. Are you clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Someone is saying, please explain slowly. Man, I'm not explaining anything. I'm just executing 3 commands. That's it. So I have created one virtual machine. Okay. So here, environment setup. So I will give you the point as environment setup. So what is the environment setup? The first one is create account in AWS cloud. Create account in the AWS cloud. Create Linux machine. Create Linux machine using AWS EC2 service. Okay, guys, here I'm using image as Amazon Linux. Image as Amazon Linux. Okay, connected to Linux machine using Mobile Extreme or Putty. You can use Mobile Extreme software or you can use Putty. So once you have done that process, install Docker by executing below commands. Install Docker software. Install Docker software in Linux VM using below commands. That's it. So this is our environment setup. Some people already have the account in the AWS cloud. If you don't have it, please create account in the AWS cloud. Once you create account in the AWS cloud, then create a Linux machine using AWS EC2. When you are creating a Linux machine, you need to select Amazon Linux, then connect it to the Linux machine using Mobile Extra. Install Docker software in the Linux VM using below commands. Install the Docker in the Amazon Linux. So here, these are the commands that we need to use to execute this. So with this, we are able to install Docker. Now, if you guys don't know how to create the Linux machine, no worries guys. I have created a short video and I uploaded to our YouTube channel. So in the YouTube, I have uploaded how to create a Linux machine, how to connect to the Linux machine by using Mobile Extra. AWS EC2, let me go for Ashok IT. So if you see here, how to create a virtual machine, see how to connect with EC2 instance using PuTTY. So this is a short video for 9 minutes. In this video, I explained how to create a Linux machine and how to connect to that Linux machine by using Mobile Extra and by using PuTTY also. Here I have given a video how to launch EC2 instance in the AWS cloud. Within 8 minutes, I explained how to launch EC2 Linux instance in the AWS cloud and how to connect to that Linux machine by using PuTTY, how to connect with the Linux machine by using Mobile Extra. These videos also I have uploaded in the YouTube. I will share these video links in our class notes, guys. In the Docker notes, I'm going to share how to launch EC2 instance in the AWS cloud environment setup. Okay. So here I'm giving the videos launching EC2 instance in AWS. This is one video. Connected to EC2 using PuTTY. In the first video, I explained how to connect to the EC2 by using Mobile Extra. In the second video, I explained how to connect to EC2 instance by using PuTTY. So if you go to these videos, you will understand how to launch EC2 instance in the AWS and how to connect to that EC2 instance by using Mobile Extra and PuTTY. The people who are attending the Dockers and Kubernetes, if you don't have idea on that, please go through these videos, then you will get the clarity. So once you are able to create the account, then I want you people to follow these steps and install the Docker. If you are facing any problem, you can message in the WhatsApp group, which we have created. I will help you for that. So I want everybody to complete this environment setup before coming to tomorrow's session. Are you clear? Good. So once this Docker is installed in our machine, then we can execute some commands in the Docker. As we see, Docker-v, it will give you which version of the Docker is installed in our machine. And there is another command called Docker-info. There is another command called Docker-info. Okay, guys. So there is a Docker-info command is available. There is a Docker-info command is available. So here, Docker-info command will give you the status about the Docker software. Next one, I want to see what are the images available in my machine. What are the Docker images available in my machine? Docker images command will give you the list of images which we have. Docker images command will give you the list of images we have. So when I execute the Docker images command, is it giving me any images? No, no Docker images are available. Okay, so here we can check some commands of the Docker. So what are the commands? See Docker information, Docker info. To see Docker images, we can execute the below command, Docker images command. Right. So currently in my machine, any Docker images are available, Docker images are not available. Guys, do I have any Docker images in my machine? The Docker images are not available in my machine. The Docker images are not available. Now, if you want to download a Docker image, then you can execute a command called Docker pull command hello-world. Hello world is the basic Docker public image available in the Docker Hub. Anybody can pull the Docker image. Okay, so I'm using a command called Docker pull hello world. Docker pull hello world is used to pull hello world Docker image from the Docker library. So where is Docker library? Docker Hub. Docker Hub. It is a public image. Anybody can download it. It is a public image. Anybody can download it. Now, before executing the Docker pull command, if I am executing Docker images command, I'm not getting any output. I'm not getting any output. Docker images. I'm not getting any output. So now I want to download one Docker image from the Docker Hub. To download the Docker image from the Docker Hub, we will execute a command called Docker pull command. Docker pull image name. What is the image name? Hello world. Where is this hello world image? This hello world image is available in the Docker Hub. It is a public image. Anybody can pull this image. Okay. Docker pull using default tag as latest, pulling the Docker image. Now see, it has downloaded hello world Docker image from the Docker Hub. How to download the Docker images? By using Docker pull command. How to see the list of Docker images in our machine? Docker images command. So I pulled a hello world image. Now let's go for Docker images. Now can you see hello world Docker image is available? So this is the image ID. This is the image name. 17 months ago, this image is created. The size of the image is 13.3 KB. 13.3 KB. So what is the purpose of the Docker images command? Docker images command is used to see what all the Docker images we have in our machine. So I want to download one Docker image. In order to download one Docker image, we will use a command called Docker pull command. Docker pull hello world. Then here in my machine, Docker engine is available. Docker engine connected to Docker daemon connected to Docker Hub, and it has downloaded this Docker image. How to see the list of Docker images available? By using a command called Docker images command. By using a command called Docker images command. Are you clear? So once the Docker images are available, how to run the image? So as we have seen in the Docker architecture, Docker file will be available. With that, Docker image will be created. Now, I don't have a Docker file. I am pulling the existing Docker image from the Docker Hub. So here, I want to pull the image and I want to run the image. So how to run that Docker image? To run the Docker image, we will use a command called Docker run image name. Let us see here. Docker images. So hello world image is available. Now I want to run that image. Docker run hello world. So Docker pull to download the image. Docker run to run the image. So now when I run the Docker image, what will happen? When I run the Docker image, Docker container will be created. So now let me execute Docker run hello world. Now you see, we got a message, hello from Docker. So the hello world image will give you just a hello message. Hello from Docker. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. That means Docker is working correctly in our system. Whenever we execute the Docker run hello world image, so the image is running and the container is created. That means Docker setup is a success in our machine. So what is the information it is giving? Hello from Docker. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. To generate this message, Docker took the following steps. The Docker client contacted the Docker daemon. The Docker daemon pulled the hello world image from the Docker Hub. The Docker daemon created a container from that image which runs the executable and that produces the output you are reading. The Docker daemon streamed that output to the Docker client, which is sent to your terminal. Are you getting my point? So whenever I execute the Docker run hello world, so Docker client is there, Docker installed, that is called Docker client. Docker client contacted the Docker daemon. Docker daemon is a background process which runs in the Docker. That the Docker daemon pulled the hello world from the Docker Hub. Then the Docker daemon created a container from that image. That container is providing the output. Whatever the output is coming from the container, Docker client taken that output, it printed on the terminal. That is what we are seeing now. Are you clear? Are you guys clear with my point? Here a tag represents the version of the image. Image 1.0, image 1.2, latest image, like that we can specify tag. Tag represents the version of the image. Docker daemon is a background process which will do the Docker operations. So Docker engine we have installed, right? Whenever we do any execution on the Docker, whenever we execute any command, internally Docker software will use a daemon. Daemon means a background thread which will perform the operation. So that means the Docker work will done by Docker daemon. Docker daemon is a Docker assistant, we can say, a PA kind of thing. For Docker, there is a personal assistant which is called Docker daemon. Docker daemon will do all the work. Fine, guys. So here we have seen what is the Docker info. What is the Docker info? To see the Docker information. Docker images, to see the Docker images, to list all the Docker images. Docker pull hello world, Docker images, Docker run hello world. So pull is used to download the image, run is used to run the image. Pull is used to download the image, run is used to run the image. Are you clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, let us see Docker images. Yes. So currently, how many images are available? Currently, how many images are available in my machine? Currently, how many images are available in my machine? One image is available. Can I delete that image from my machine? Can I delete that image? Yes, you can delete that. So what is happening when I run the image? What is happening when I run the image? What will happen when we run the image, guys? When we run the image, Docker container will be created. When we run the image, Docker container will be created. Okay. How to see the Docker containers? For that, there is a command called Docker PS. Docker images command will give you list of the images available. To see the list of containers, we can go for Docker PS command. So Docker PS command will display only running the containers. So is there any container which is running in our machine? Hello world image I executed, it created a container, it has given the output and container got stopped. So what is the Docker PS command is doing? Docker PS command is going to display the list of containers which are in the running state. So in our machine, any container is in the running state? No, that's why I'm not getting any output. I want to see all the containers which are running and stopped also. Now, for that, if you give Docker PS-A, so this is the container ID. This container is created by using this image. 4 minutes ago, that container got created and immediately that container got stopped. So if you go for a Docker PS, it will display all the running containers. If you go for a Docker PS-A, running plus stopped containers also, it is going to display. Okay, guys. So run the image. So display running Docker containers. To see the running Docker containers, we are going to use a command called Docker PS container. Display running plus stopped containers also. Display running plus stopped containers also. So for that, we will use a command called Docker PS-A command. Docker PS command, Docker PS-A command we can use. So to see all the images, we will use the Docker images command. To pull the image, we will use the Docker pull command. To run the image, we will use the Docker run command. To display the running containers, we can use the Docker PS command. To display the running plus stopped containers, we will use the PS-A command. Getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? Perfect. So there are so many commands that we need to understand, guys. So at the end, I will give you a cheat sheet for the Docker commands. I have prepared all the Docker commands and I have uploaded that video also in the YouTube, Docker commands. So Docker commands cheat sheet. I have divided these commands into 8 parts. So these are basic Docker commands will be available. So basic Docker image commands will be available. RMI command to remove the image, pull command, run command, tag command, push command, history command, inspect command, prune command, and then Docker container commands are available. Docker network commands available. Docker volume commands are available, and Docker compose commands available. Docker swarm commands available. All the Docker commands I have prepared as a cheat sheet. I will give you this list also at the end of the Docker. First, we'll understand the concepts. Once the concepts are completed, then I will share the cheat sheet which contains all the Docker commands. Are you clear? So how to see what all the things present in the Docker image? So as I shown you, there is a command called Docker inspect command. So there is a command called Docker inspect command is available. So Docker inspect image, it will display what all the things available in the Docker image. Got it? Yeah. Docker push, Docker history, Docker inspect, Docker prune, like that there are several commands available. I will give you the list of all these commands. And I explained the purpose of each Docker command in a video. That video is also available in our channel. Docker commands. If you type Docker commands Ashok IT, so you can see the top 50 Docker commands I have explained. Just 3 months back, I uploaded a video in the YouTube. In that video, I explained the top 50 Docker commands. Top 50 Docker commands I have explained. Docker commands. If you see here, all the Docker container commands and the Docker image commands I have explained. So what is the Docker? Docker basic commands I have explained. Image commands, container commands, network commands, volume commands, compose commands. Right. So this course is very well organized, guys. So Docker swarm commands, everything is already there. Just 3 months back, I have uploaded this video. So I will share these details. Okay. So this is the PPT I used to prepare that video. This also I'm going to share. Okay. So today, the expectation, I want everybody is able to create a Docker machine and install the Docker software and execute the basic Docker commands that I have given here. So tomorrow we will understand some more commands and we'll start working with applications and we'll start writing the Docker files and all that stuff. Okay, guys. Perfect. So whatever the notes that I have prepared, I will upload that notes into our website now. You guys can access the latest notes. So if you go to the dashboard, here we have Dockers. Yeah. So every day the class notes will be uploaded here. You can access the latest notes from the portal. Backup video also will be available for you. Yeah, for the DevOps people also, I'm uploading these notes. Done, guys. So latest Docker notes is uploaded. So could you please check it? Are you able to access the notes in the website? Could you please confirm, all of you able to access notes in the website? So once your installation and the basic commands practice is completed, you can go and stop the machine which we have created. Docker VM, I'm just going to stop the instance. Tomorrow, I will use the same instance. I'm not deleting that. I'm just stopping the instance. Select the machine, instance state, stop the instance. That means the instance will be stopped. Tomorrow, I'm going to use the same machine to perform our Docker operations. Got it? Fine.